Hi, I'm Judy Ricketson with Families in Global Transition, and I'm here today with Danau Tanu, who is speaking with me from Perth, Australia. She is a doctoral candidate at the University of Western Australia, and at least she is at the moment, and probably by the time we roll around to the FIGT conference, she's going to have achieved her doctorate.
Yes.
And she is going to be speaking to the conference. Her session has a fabulous title, Why Are All the Korean Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? So, Dana, this is very intriguing. Please tell us what you're going to be talking about.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about, it's going to come out of my doctoral thesis, and it's a part of it. And the reason I came up with this topic was because, well, I do anthropology, and what the method we use in doing research is that we go to the site of our research and we quote unquote go native in the old days. But instead of going to a village, what I'm doing is going to an international school, and what I did was I spent a year at at an international school in Indonesia, and I went to classes, went to extracurricular activities, hung out with the students a lot during recess, and a lot of the students are third culture kids. And one of the first things that teachers, mainly teachers, told me when I got to the school and told them I want to do research on third culture kids was they said, well, you've come to the right place. Pretty much everyone's third culture kid here. Well, except maybe some of the Koreans because they hang out with other Koreans. And I thought that was an interesting comment, and it was, and then I had another teacher who said, a lot of the Koreans integrate, but some of the Koreans don't integrate. And I found it interesting because, well, if they're not integrating, then the question is, well, what are they supposed to be integrating into? This is an international school, and people are supposed to be coming from different countries, etc. And I found that a huge concern at the school was that not just the Koreans, but you also had quote-unquote Indonesians, Japanese, who were hanging out among themselves or speaking a language, in groups where they're speaking Korean and Japanese and Indonesian, and were seen as segregating or self-segregating at the international school. And so my thesis then, I became obsessed with trying to unpack why exactly are they doing that, and what are the different factors that contribute to this quote-unquote self-segregation. I use quotes because I'm not, it's easy to think of them as being monocultural, they're hanging out with themselves, but there are a lot more other things, a lot of layers, a lot of issues that contribute to this. And one of them is that I think in talking about third culture kids, because we share, and I self-identify as a third culture kid, we share a lot in common despite the diversity, and that has been the focus of a lot of the literature so far, that we forget that actually the third culture kid experience can be diverse. And so that's what I'm trying to unpack. What are the factors that contribute to this diversity? And these same factors, for example, the family's home culture, the language that they speak at home, how do they also contribute then to the way students hang out at an international school? And we often, I guess, forget that the international school, although it is international, and everyone's a third culture kid, and that they're living in a country outside of their passport country, and they're expecting to repatriate and everything. We forget that going to, for example, a British international school or an American international school, that experience is very different depending on your parents' home culture. And part of the reason I got interested in this topic is because as one whose father is Indonesian Chinese and mother is Japanese, for me going to an international school, and I went, it was like being a second generation immigrant in a Western country. And so I try to look at the diversity of third culture experience, and that, and like I said, how that in fact influences the intercultural dynamic at the school. And so I'll give you one example. For example, often the Indonesian students at the school that I did my research were seen as self-segregating as well. However, if you actually go and hang out with Indonesian students, actually there were, it's true that majority were Indonesian. However, among the Indonesians, they were all from, a lot of them were from different ethnic backgrounds, although the majority were Chinese Indonesians. But in that group, you also had Filipinos, Thais, those who are half British, half Indonesian, half Thai, half Indonesian, or Japanese Indonesian, Korean, Taiwanese. And so it was actually a pretty diverse group, but they were labeled as Indonesians because they were speaking Indonesian and because, I guess, the physical appearance, they all sort of blended in together. And they weren't actually hanging out with the students who spoke more English, or the third culture kids who spoke more English. And so I try to unpack all of that, and that's sort of the topic of this talk. So, what is the diversity of third culture kid experience, why students self-segregate, and also the experience of internalized racism that some third culture kids go to by going to an English-speaking international school, when their family is not from an English-speaking background. That's in a nutshell.
Okay, well, that sounds absolutely fascinating, and having had my own son in international schools where I have seen that kind of self-segregation go on, I'll be really interested to hear all the details and your conclusions. So thank you very much for talking with us today, and we look forward to seeing you on March 21st.
Thank you.